may let him through.
Take this to the others.
Dwarves are hardy from birth. Their bodies are strong, their hands powerful, and their hearing keener than that of most other peoples. Beneath the mountain, this is no mere advantage. It is a necessity. A dwarf must hear the first crack in a supporting stone, water stirring beyond a wall, the stroke of a pick in a neighbouring tunnel, and the footsteps of one not yet seen. Yet at times a child is born who hears far more. It is said that such children are chosen by the mountain herself. Such dwarves are known as the stone listeners. They perceive the world through hearing, touch, and the faintest stirrings in the mountain's depths. To them, stone is not mute. Ore, crystals, rivers beneath the earth, living creatures, and even hidden peril have voices of their own. Yet above all others stands the voice of the mountain herself. She leads them through darkness, warns them of danger, and reveals that which remains hidden from others. For this reason, the words of a stone listener are always met with respect. In council they are heard. In the mines their warnings are heeded, and before weighty choices are made, even rulers seek their counsel. For it is believed that they understand better than any what the mountain desires. Yet the gift is only the beginning. Without training, it remains weak, ungoverned, and even dangerous. As soon as the gift reveals itself, the child is entrusted to the elder stone listeners. Their years of learning are devoted to two chief disciplines: steadfastness of mind and the discerning of voices. The pupil must learn to distinguish the voice of stone from that of metal, the voice of water from that of a living creature, and an ordinary voice from one that warns of peril. Their lessons are not confined to silent halls. True silence is seldom found within the depths of the mountain. And so, some of their trials are held in places where noise, fear, and pain test the steadiness of the mind. During one of the earliest trials, the pupils sit beside the hives of the mountain bees. Bees circle all around them. They alight upon their hands, their faces, and their garments. The pupil must remain utterly calm. When the breathing grows even and the thoughts become clear, the bees cease to trouble the pupil. Only then, amid their ceaseless humming, must the pupil hear what passes beyond the noise, the fall of a stone, the movement of water, or the quiet voice of a master. The trials that follow are far more difficult. The pupil is brought before a waterfall deep beneath the mountain. The roar of the falling water drowns almost every other sound. The listener lays a palm upon the rock and must tell what lies hidden within it, in which direction the ore lies, how far away the crystals are hidden, where the bats lie sleeping, whether hollow places, unstable tunnels, or some unknown danger lie nearby. A single error may mean that the pupil is not yet ready for the higher teachings. Another trial is prepared by the dwarves of the old forest. They are famed as the greatest masters of traps among all the Dwarven kindreds. For the trial, they fashion a long tunnel filled with hidden devices, pressure stones, concealed wires, pitfalls, blades of stone, crossbows hidden within the walls. The listener must pass from one end of the tunnel to the other without springing a single trap. The traps are not sought with the eyes. The listener hears the strain of a drawn bowstring, feels the hollow space beneath a pressure stone, and senses the faint quiver of a hidden device. One careless step may bring the trial to an end before the pupil ever sees the way out. Yet the most perilous trial tests the listener's sense of danger itself. The listener stands, with eyes closed. Around the listener take their places, dwarves bearing crossbows. One after another, they raise their weapons and take aim. The pupil must say who is aiming,
Right arm,
from which side
head,
the marksman stands,
chest,
and where the bolt is pointed. The threat itself must be felt before the bolt is loosed. Each trial passed raises the stone listener in trust and standing, and opens new paths of service. At first, the listener is permitted to accompany expeditions. Later, the listener may be assigned to a company of miners, there to seek out veins of ore, discover hidden chambers, and give warning of cave-ins. Some become scouts in times of war. They hear the movements of the enemy, discover ambushes, and find safe paths through unfamiliar tunnels. The bravest among the listeners take their place upon the field of battle. There they stand in the ranks, beside the warriors. Amid the thunder of shields, the cries of battle, and the clash of weapons, they discern the commands of the war captains and carry them to their own company. They help the host move as one body, even when its commanders can neither be seen nor heard. Yet not all stone listeners choose the mines or the ways of war. Some become scholars, keepers of ancient lore, and devisers of new works. For Dwarven learning, Dwarven craft, and nearly all the great works of the capital are born from that which the mountain keeps hidden. Who, then, can understand her better than one who is able to hear her voice? The stone listeners are few, yet each of them holds a place of honor among the Dwarven people. They do not rule the mountain. They listen to her, and when the mountain speaks, all others fall silent. Every mountain our people called home set new trials before them, and each time the dwarves found a way to overcome that which seemed impossible to other peoples, not because the mountain was merciful, but because the dwarves were far too stubborn to abandon her. One of the finest examples of dwarven mastery of defense was Ravenhold, a great fortified outpost hewn directly into the wall of a deep canyon. Along the opposite side ran a broad road, the only path by which a great host could pass from the goblin lands into the realm of the dwarves. Ravenhold had been built where the enemy could not reach it from their side of the canyon. The only way into the fortress lay on the dwarven side. From there, the defenders could see the entire road and assail any army attempting to pass toward the capital. After Helvan Bastion, Ravenhold was the second great line of defense, standing in the path of the goblins. It seemed that no great army could pass beneath it and remain unscathed. Yet the dwarves had built this fortress for war against ordinary goblins. They did not yet know that the enemy was now ruled by a power that knew how to wait. how to study and how to turn the enemy's own plans against him. The army that had captured Helvarn Bastion soon appeared upon the broad road beneath Ravenhold. The moment its vanguard came within range, the first shot thundered across the canyon. A heavy ballista bolt tore through several ranks at once. Then the stones began to fall. One after another, the catapults hurled their stones upon the road. The cliffs trembled. Fragments of rock broke loose and fell into the canyon. The goblin ranks suffered grievous losses, yet they did not stop. Others stepped forward to take the places of the fallen. Their ranks continued to press onward,
Continue the assault.
as though
Do not
some
stop.
unseen will drove them straight beneath Dwarven fire. The defenders of Ravenhold understood that the enemy meant to break through at
Call
any
the
cost.
Brendars!
A signal fire was kindled upon the highest tower. Nearby, in a small fortified settlement, the Brundar cavalry kept watch. Their duty was to guard Ravenhold and ride out upon the road should the enemy break through the fire from the fortress. At the sight of the signal, the riders set out at once. Soon the earth trembled beneath heavy hooves. The Brundars thundered along the road, while their riders made their spears ready for the first charge. They were to hold the goblins, force them to halt beneath the fire of the catapults, and buy the defenders of Ravenhold more time. When the goblins saw
Pull
the
back,
cavalry,
now.
their foremost ranks began to fall back, slowly at first, then faster. It seemed that the enemy had broken and sought to escape. The charge of the Brundars. The riders urged their mounts onward. The distance between them and the goblins closed swiftly. But this was no flight. It was a trap. As they withdrew, the goblins had prepared hidden traps of fire. When the Brundars entered the chosen ground, the goblins ignited the charges. The road erupted beneath their hooves. The formation shattered in a single instant. Then the goblins ended their retreat. They turned and fell upon the cavalry. The commander of the riders understood at once what had happened. A feigned retreat. A trap laid in advance. A blow struck at the very moment when the Brundars had gathered full speed and could no longer turn aside. This was no blind assault by a witless foe. The goblins had studied the way they fought. They used guile, traps, and carefully planned maneuvers of war. The commander called his aide to him. He took his personal seal from his belt and pressed it into the rider's palm.
Give this seal to the king and tell him everything that has happened here. The goblins have changed.
They no longer advance as a blind horde. They study our defenses, foresee our actions, and turn our own designs into weapons against us. What guarded us before may fail us now. The aide wished to remain, yet his commander's order came before his own desire. Now, more than the fate of the cavalry was at stake, and more even than the fate of Ravenhold. The safety of the entire Dwarven people might depend upon this message. The commander, meanwhile, raised his hammer and went to those who still held the line. He led them against the goblins to win the messenger even a little more time. Behind the rider, the battle thundered. Ahead lay the long road to the capital, and the message he carried to the king was more terrible than defeat. The enemy had learned to think. That day, life in the capital went on as it always had. Metal rang in the forges. In the market squares, merchants traded in armor, cloth, and mountain herbs. Companies of miners returned from their night shifts, while craftsmen opened the doors of their workshops. None yet knew that the people of the capital would remember that day for many years to come.
So, did you ask her?
Aye.
The first to see him
Go well.
were the guards at the outer gate. Varric, Eldrin, and Borin were returning through the mountain passage. Beside them walked the senior keeper of the Brundars, and behind him strode a creature, the like of which the Dwarven people had never seen before. The White Brundar. He stood far taller than any other of his kind. His thick coat was pale as snow upon the mountain peaks. Great horns cast forth a cold blue radiance. The same light burned within his eyes. All along the streets, voices fell silent in an instant. Craftsmen stepped out of their workshops. Miners stopped where they stood, their gear still upon them. Children pressed forward for even the briefest glimpse of the wondrous beast. Some looked upon him with awe, others with fear, yet none could turn away. So they passed through the whole of the capital, from the outer gates to the royal citadel. Their journey ended at the Bastion of the Riders. There, young riders were trained, and the Brundars were readied for saddle and battle. Yet even before the first gates, one thing became clear. The old arrangements would not serve their new guest. The White Brundar halted before the stable entrance. He lowered his head, drew a heavy breath, and refused to step inside. They tried to calm him. They brought him food, yet he would not move. The chamber was too narrow. The ceiling was too low, and the walls enclosed him on every side. He had grown beneath the open sky, among wind and snow and endless slopes of stone. An enclosed place was foreign to him.
Such a creature could not be forced to accept conditions made for ordinary Brungers. If the mountain had sent them a beast from the ancient tales, then they must receive him with the honor he was due.
A solution was found before the day was done. In the upper reaches of the Bastion of the Riders stood a great hall where the senior officers of the cavalry held their councils. The hall was cleared. None yet knew how to communicate with him. He scarcely heeded ordinary commands. He did not respond to the signals, talked to other Brundars, and allowed no one to approach him without cause. The senior keeper took this task upon himself. He knew their habits, discerned the slightest changes in their behavior, and understood things that others did not even notice. The keeper chose not to hasten the matter. First, he would have to earn the White Brundar's trust, to understand his movements, his nature, his fears, and his will. Only then could he begin to teach Varric. For if a true bond in battle was to arise between the prince and this beast, then much work still lay before them. One further task remained. Every Brundar paired with a rider was given its own saddle, harness, and battle armor. Each was fashioned separately, according to the creature's strength, size, and manner of movement. Yet the Dwarven smiths had never forged equipment for a creature of such great size. An ordinary saddle was far too small. Brogan himself took charge of the work, the oldest smith in the capital.
We will do it.
At his side would labour his daughter, Ragnar, her father's right hand, and one of the finest craftswomen of the younger generation. They were called upon to create more than mere armour. They had to forge equipment for a creature that until then had been seen only upon ancient frescoes. The return journey was at an end. The White Brundar was safe. Yet the true work had only begun. They had to win his trust, learn to understand him, create armor the like of which had never existed before, and prepare Varik for the day when the two of them would first stand together in battle. Much remained unknown upon the road ahead, yet the first step had been taken. And this time, none doubted that the mountain had led them to the White Brundar for a purpose.
Shove that flame up your ass! For the mountain!